Hey, this is the troublemaker, Shannon Levangie, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, this is Kid Bandit, the protagonist of pro wrestling, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hey everyone, this is the Queen of Charisma, Big Juicy, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, bringing you the latest exclusive breaking news, previewing and reviewing the latest shows from WWE, AEW, and New Japan every Saturday, and interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I am, of course, your host, James J., alongside Kaliko Yachts, who is not here tonight, but who is Scooter Dust.
If I had 50 cents for every math exam I failed, I'd have $6.30 by now.
And it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with, from a juice bar near you, the Queen of Charisma, Big Juicy.
Oh wow, what an introduction. I don't even think I could have introduced myself better than that. Jeez.
We like to do it here.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I taught him well.
Yeah, Scooter. So, Big Juicy, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely.
Our pleasure.
Can you tell us what you got coming up next?
So what day is it? Okay. So what I have coming up, I actually will be making not a Maine state debut, but a Portland, Maine debut coming up on February 4th. I will be working for NAWA, and I will be working one Nakoma Tala.
Ooh. Don't you mean March 1st?
March 4th.
I'm sorry?
March 4th.
It's March, yeah.
Yeah, March 4th. This coming Friday.
There you
Portland, Maine.
All right. And what can we find you on social media?
So you can find me. I have a Facebook page as well as a Twitter and an Instagram. You can find me. The tag is It's Big Juicy with 3 Y's because It's Big Juicy with 1 Y was taken, so why not keep adding some Y's?
How dare they?
I know. How dare they?
Yeah. And you got merchandise as well?
What?
You have merchandise?
Yeah, so I don't have, unfortunately, I'm a little behind on that game in terms of having a separate website or thing you can find me on, but if you DM me on any of my social media for my wrestling page, I do have merchandise that I do sell and I'll post online. I got t-shirts, 8x10s, I have canvas drawstring bags. So if anyone's ever interested in merch, send me a direct message and we'll get you some merch.
Cut out the middleman. I like it.
And we'll put all of those links for all your social medias in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox as well.
Perfect.
Alright, let's start off. You wrestled for Shut Up and Wrestle. Can you tell us about your relationship with the company?
So Shut Up and Wrestle is my home base. Those shows are run through and located at Kevin Landry's Pro Wrestling Combine. And that is my home. That's where I started training. That's where I still train to this day. And I currently hold their women's title for that promotion.
That's the SU&W.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
There will be a question later about that.
Oh, geez. All right. I'll remember.
Scooter, you have a question.
Ooh, yes. I suppose we should maybe start with the obvious. Could you please explain Juicy Fuel to us?
Oh, that's a good one. I haven't gotten asked that question yet. Juicy Fuel, I was given the name Big Juicy, and kind of think of Juicy Fuel kind of like Popeye with his spinach, right?
Okay.
He's
Okay.
getting beat down. He pops open that can of spinach, and oh my God, he can kick anyone's ass. So Juicy Fuel is what Popeye uses his spinach for. Juicy Fuel is for me, if that makes sense.
It makes
Now,
perfect sense.
yes, it absolutely does, and I want to just quickly follow up on that. You mentioned name. You kind of owe that name and your gimmick to the Hells Angels. How did that come about?
Oh my dear Lord, you did your research. So I for Big Juicy. So Big Juicy wasn't my initial gimmick. That wasn't my initial stage name or even persona. Before I was once given the name Roxy Star, and if you search the web under that name, you might come across some very interesting content. Putting it very politely.
Leave the web, Rogers.
So, I mean, if that's your thing, you do you. However, I don't really want that associated with my ring name and my wrestling. Um, so, but need I digress? So I was working under the name Roxy Star, and I wasn't initially a face. I was a heel. And I was in the middle of a match working against Dajea Simone. And all of a sudden, you hear the crowd, like these bikers. There's like 3, 4, 5 of them in the crowd, right? And they're like, "Juicy, yeah, juicy girl," like saying all these things. And I'm like, what? Like, it didn't even register to me that they were referencing me, talking about me, whatever. And then my match finishes, the event finishes. You like to mingle with the crowd and the fans and the audience afterwards. So I come out from the back and I'm talking to people, and they approach me and they're like, "Yeah, the juicy girl, the big juicy girl, like Big Juicy." And then slowly but surely over time at Shut Up and Wrestle events, they would just start chanting "Juicy, Juicy." So then I kind of took it as my moniker, but then I was like, you know what? Everyone's popping for it. Don't fix it if it's not broken. So I changed my gimmick and made the shift from Roxy Star to Big Juicy.
Oh, I love it. There are you touched on so many points that I have follow up questions for, and we'll get to those a little later. But there's just so much. Ooh, I love it.
Now, you mentioned Dajea Simone.
Mm-hmm.
You just competed with her in a last woman standing match.
I did. I
Could,
did.
could
For
you,
Blood, Sweat, and Tears Wrestling.
yeah, can you tell us about that match and how what was the experience like being in such a brutal match like that?
Oh, yeah. So that match was a long time coming. Dajay and I have kind of worked each other through some of the local independent wrestling scene over here in New England. Um, Not even just at Blood, Sweat, and Tears, at Shut Up and Wrestle. Um, and we've had this back and forth for quite some time. Um, and I want to say a little over a year and a half ago, it was where I initially won the Monarchs Women's Championship from Dajay at Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And then ever since then, it's been this long build up. And of course, with COVID, it was even longer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, we had a series of matches where finally we had that contract signing of like, look, this is it. Like, we're going to settle the score once and for all. So it built up to a contract signing for this last woman standing match. And let me tell you, it takes people like, oh, last man standing or woman standing, like, that's nothing. No, those are some very labor intensive, stamina demanding matches, no matter how long it may be, right?
Right.
But in the end, I did maintain my title for Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and I'm still the Monarch Women's Champion for the company.
Yeah, and you didn't even get like a moment to celebrate. Immediately after another girl came and challenged you.
Yes, immediately, just, taking my moment that I deserve in the ring, and then Evie De La Rosa slides on in and wants to throw the gauntlet to be the next one for me to defend my title against.
No respect.
None whatsoever.
But if I had one recommendation about that match, it needed more cowbell.
You say that? Let me tell you, I'm 90% sure that whoever was on commentary said that quite a few times.
I was like, oh, I saw the weapon. I said, is that a cowbell?
Oh, there was. It wasn't just bull rope. There was a bell.
Yes, there was. Now, you've just said about Dajea Simone. Is she your greatest rival at this point, considering how many times you've been in the ring with her?
Yeah, I would definitely say, loosely speaking, if we're talking about people that I've had continuing matches with, that's kind of built storylines across promotions and territories, I would say that Dajea Simone definitely has to be one of my bigger rivals. Yeah.
All right. Scooter, you have a question.
Okay.
Don't forget the Burger King question.
I will Burger King your face, James.
I prefer Wendy's.
So, you have quite an achievement outside of the ring. Tell us about your history with tap dancing.
Oh, you guys went all the way in on this one. Yeah. So, wow, you guys are the first podcast interview platform I've done where they've mentioned that. That's awesome. So yeah, I also, outside of, fighting in the ring, I also have been tap dancing since I was about a year and a half old. So if you guys want to do the math and really figure out how old I am, I've been doing it for almost about, oh God, how old am I going to be this year? So
19?
about like 26 years, I've been tap dancing. And not only did I grow up, I did the traditional thing where you go to a dancing school, and that's kind of like your home base until I graduated high school, because I grew up doing competitions, and that's traditionally the age at which you stop competing. But I also was in a semi-professional tap dance company out in Boston, actually two companies, Subject Matter Tap and the Boston Tap Company. And I performed out in the greater Boston area for about 3 to 4 years with those companies. And now I just teach at my local dance studio that I grew up dancing at all those years ago.
That's so interesting, and I'm not entirely sure what to ask about tap dancing, but like, what goes into doing professional tap dancing?
So well, I mean, it's hours, kind of thinking about it like in wrestling, right? Or whatever your sport of choice may be. So it's a lot of intensive training, hours in the dance studio, and the basics are trying to get technique, making sure your sounds are clean, they're nice and crisp. But not only that, but then you have the things kind of like within wrestling too, where like you start very rudimentary and you learn your basics. And then once you learn your basics and you feel like you've got a solid master on those, then you start learning, your harder moves or skill sets, and you kind of just keep going until, you pick up something else along the way, or you cross paths with another dancer who really pushes you. And then kind of like with wrestling, how you can kind of go all over the place and do seminars or fantasy camps or whatever you may have. They also have that kind of with tap dancing where you can go to festivals throughout the, not even the country, really throughout the world, if you're really that invested in tap and you get to that level.
All right. And I love how you brought it right back around to wrestling.
Yeah, trying to keep it kind of on a playing field where the non-dance fans will kind of understand,
Yes. All right. Now, last year you wrestled for Chaotic and Limitless Wrestling. Can you tell us kind of how those two dates kind of happened and what was the experience like? I believe you wrestled Becca for the Chaotic Women's Championship and
I
Jesse
did.
Nolan's at Limitless.
I did. So, first of all, when those opportunities came my way, I was like, what? I'm going to drop everything I have going on and make sure I'm available for these dates. And I kind of, as not saying that I'm a person that backs out of opportunities, but I didn't know if I was going to get these opportunities again. And in the independent circuit, let alone the New England area, Chaotic and Limitless are huge names that get mentioned quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
So once I got that, those promoters and those promotions reached out to me, I was besides myself. I was like, there's no way they want to use me. Like, I'm dreaming. But just because, watching the independents before I got into wrestling, I was like, wow, like these people that reach these promotions, they're fantastic. But yeah, I got the opportunity. Chaotic wasn't having necessarily live shows at the moment, but they were doing these tapings and they wanted to bring me in to work Becca. And that's when, unfortunately, right before COVID hit, kind of worldwide and was declared a pandemic, I was really just hitting my stride and getting bookings kind of regularly, weekend to weekend, really trying to get my name out there in my local area. And then COVID happened, so shows slowed down, obviously, but I was able to keep a following through these tapings. So once Chaotic reached out to me, I was all on board. And I'd always wanted to work Becca because that's when she was starting to come up. And I was noticing her online. I was like, oh my God, she's amazing. I need to get in the ring with her. And it was a great experience. She was amazing to work with. She's doing so many great things. So I can't wait for the day when I get to work her again. And then kind of the same thing with Limitless. I was reached out to by Randy Carver. He's the promoter for Limitless. And he was like, hey, I know this is last minute, but I have this spot open if you're interested. You'd be working Jesse. And Jesse's another one of those people that I've kind of gotten to work with quite a few times now in the area. And she was fantastic to work with. It was one of their student showcases. She had just come out of the Limitless training dojo. And it was great to work with her. I was one of her, I think she said I was probably like her fifth or sixth match. So I was like, wow, that's awesome. I feel like I felt almost like honored that she knew exactly what number match I was for her. And I was like, wow, this is cool. Like I can't say that I've been that diligent in knowing exactly how many matches that I've had. But if I sat down and like thought about it and counted them out, I could probably get there. But she had a tally ready to go. She knows exactly what number she's on.
Yeah, we interviewed Jessie when she only had 3 matches under her belt.
Oh, so she's come so far since then, let me tell you.
And you briefly had a tag team with Becca, correct?
Yeah, there was a promotion that was fairly new, and it was actually another guy that I had done a podcast with. He runs Alone in the Basement podcast, and I had developed a good working relationship with him, and he was like, hey, I'm finally going to pull the plug. I'm going to do this promotion. If it's a one-time gig, that's cool. But if it takes off, that's also really cool. And Becca and I were I think it was the Scrunchy Juice Connection, I think is what he called us for that booking. And it was a fun time.
All right. Scooter, you have a question.
Yes. All right, now prepare to be dazzled with more research.
Ooh.
You have a cat named Pepper Ann. Am I correct?
I do.
Safe to say you're a fan. How much of a fan are you of Pepper Ann?
Oh, like, okay, so the fact that I named her, so her first name is Pepper. Okay, so full disclosure, my animals are my children. They're always part of the family. Whoever says their pets aren't part of their family, there's something wrong with them. Uh, but I give my animals first and middle names because anyone in a family usually has a first and middle name. So when I got her, I was like, I don't know what to name her. I was like, there's all these generic black cat names like Shadow or Salem to go along, or like Onyx, like playing off of like the fact that she was black. And it was actually my dad that named her Pepper. He was like, she's got a little bit of gray, a little bit of black. She could be Pepper. I was like, all right. And then I got thinking, I was like, oh, there's that show, Pepper Ann. So I gave her middle name, Ann, after the show. Because that was definitely one of the TV shows in my childhood that was like on rotation at all times.
That is great. I also had a black cat, and I went against all naming conventions, and I ended up naming her Lee.
There you go. It's hard to name an animal. You gotta like find out their personality first and spend some time with them. You can't just slap a name on them right away, I feel like.
No, you're not. Sometimes you have the name ready to go, and they just fit that mold immediately.
Sometimes it's like a 50-50.
But I'm surprised you didn't name your cat Luna after the Sailor Moon cat.
I so badly wanted to, but I was like, see, okay, so did you do more research? I like Sailor Moon.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, I almost bought a Sailor Moon t-shirt today at FYE when I was at the mall. Um yeah, no, I really, really thought about it, but I was like, no, like everyone does that. So I was like trying to play it safe and give her something original. When I'm looking back at it, like Pepper's not that original, but good try.
I don't know. But like you said, you're a Sailor Moon fan. What Sailor Moon uh, are you a fan of? Because are you the Usagi or Sabrina?
Oh, that's a really hard question. I go back and forth, honestly. I really do. I can't pick one. That's really tough.
Well, because, watching it as a kid, you're grown up, oh, she's Sabrina, and, Mercury and Uranus are cousins, and then you watch the actual one, and it's like, this is not the Sailor Moon I grew up on.
Exactly. You're like, wait, what is this? This is not it.
Right,
But I guess it just depends on when you watch those certain things. Like, what point in life are you at when you watch those? You know what I mean?
correct. Well, I mean, I watched it on the old Tsunami when it used to come on. So
Oh,
that's,
man.
I
Throwback.
yeah.
I used to watch it at 6:30 in the morning before high school.
Yeah. See, I would watch stuff like then, like early in the morning or like, oh, but now I'm lucky enough that, you can just go on Hulu and they got the really dubbed over version and you just watch it there now, I guess.
It makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely a lot easier with a dub.
Yeah. All right. Um, Now you even we talked about you wrestling for Chaotic and Limitless. You wrestled for an underground fight club?
Oh, geez, you're talking about that crazy pro wrestling gig I did, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and Miss newly retired Corinne Mink. Love her to death. I'm so sad to see that she retired, but I'm glad that I got to work with her the handful of times that I did before she retired. But yeah, I got a message, or this is how it all started. So I didn't realize the whole situation. Um, I knew it wasn't going to be in a real wrestling ring. I knew it was going to be in like a MMA, like cage, whatever, but it was a wild time. Do I necessarily want to bump again in an MMA cage? Not the most comfortable. Would I prefer to work in a real wrestling ring? Absolutely. But those are the experiences that you want to just get out there, and as you get a little more, as you get more matches under your belt, you can like kind of pick and choose what bookings you think might help elevate you, or ones that you think, you're okay passing on. But I am a firm believer of like taking any and all bookings until you kind of see for yourself that, or unless you have like very reliable resources. I give every, promotion that approaches me and comes my way a fair shot before I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Um, but yeah, Corinne reached out to me and said, hey, are you available for this date? I said, let me check my calendar. I was available. She said, great. These are the details. I'll see you there, and you'll be one of my last matches before I retire. And I was like, oh, thanks.
That's incredible that you uh I didn't know that she chose you to be in that match. And for
Well,
her
she asked
to
if I was available, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm around. What's going on? She's like, so this is the situation. Here's our pay. Are you available? Do you want to do this? I was like, sure.
and that's awesome. Especially that
Oh, yeah.
she kind of picked you to be one of her last matches.
Yeah, Corinne's good people. I have nothing but good experiences, interactions with her. I'll put her over before myself any day.
Alright. Scooter, you have a question.
Now, I'm curious, when doing research, someone who also comes up when trying to search you is another wrestler by the name of Juicy Finale. Have there
Hmm.
ever been any interviews where they've asked you something about him by mistake?
No, thankfully. And honestly, I'm kind of, now that you say that, I like don't really always think about that in the forefront of my brain when it comes to these types of things, or even in general. But I'm waiting for the day where someone like brings up something. I'm like, that's not me, bud. That's not me. That is a whole other lineage of amazing and incredibly talented people, but I hate to tell you that's not me.
Okay. Uh, and just one more quick follow up to this. Uh, how many people have approached you to be your tag partner under the name Jin?
So it's actually funny that you say that, because um, my boyfriend and I have been starting to get booked as a tag, and not that his gimmick is alcohol based, or but we kind of thought of playing off of like the gin and juice spin-off, but it didn't really end up working, so we went with a different name. But you're not the first one to say something along those lines, trust me.
You, you could have gone with the ancient spelling of genie as Jin, Djinn. That's something to keep
New
on
every
the
day. I'll keep that in my back pocket for another time.
free of charge.
I'll give you credit.
That's all we ask.
Thank
It's
you.
a little
Yes,
credit.
that is.
Give you guys a little shout out.
Yeah.
If that day comes.
Now, you won, and we mentioned this before, you won the SU&W women's title and an impromptu match that was kind of just an open challenge. Can you tell us about that match and that experience?
Yeah, so that was an open challenge posed by the makeup queen Rosalie. And there's been only actually a few women to kind of come out of Kevin Landry's Pro Wrestling Combine. I don't know if you know who Hot Scoop Skylar is.
Yes.
So she's come out of the same training facility as well as Rosalie. And Rosalie relocated down to Florida. And she came up and kind of threw it open, was like, hey, I'm the OG kind of like girl of this place. And, this is the belt that I won years ago, and I'm going to pose this challenge. And everyone instantly thought, well, there's only one girl kicking around the combine these days, and I answered that challenge.
What did it mean to you to win the title?
Huh?
Hmm?
I'm sorry. My the audio broke up when you asked your question. What did you say?
What did it mean to win that title?
It meant a lot, actually. It was kind of, at the end of the day, almost like a passing of the torch, it feels like, from one established female wrestler coming from that school, and then she's kind of passing it on to me of like, hey, this has some weight, and this has some like meaning behind it. So like, carry on, like being one of the few women to come out of here, and like, continue to hold your own. So it felt really, really cool. To kind of have that moment and experience with Rosalie.
All right. Scooter, you have a question.
Your finisher is the juice bomb, correct?
Yes, it is.
What would you say are the two main flavors of your finisher, the juice bomb?
Ooh, okay. Well, I mean, up until like recently, I mean, it's gotta be like a Hawaiian punch flavor going with the red hair. I mean, obviously, but now that we're rocking orange and red these days on my hair, I don't know. It might be a mix of like classic high C or Tang, probably.
Ooh.
That being said, what is Big Juicy's preferred juice, and what is your least favorite?
Oh man. See, the thing is though, like I really do love juice. Like, but the only thing is like I don't drink it all the time, or I gotta find like low sugar juices. Um, but I would have to like just a straight up juice, and this might sound weird, but I really, really, really enjoy. I'd have to say these two are tied. I really enjoy Snapple Apple. It's specifically Snapple Apple, not just any old regular
Yeah.
apple juice. Snapple Apple specifically. Um, and I'm a sucker for like a classic pineapple juice. I really like pineapple. It's one of my favorite fruits. And then my least favorite, oh God, why do we have to talk about bad juice?
We like to take the good
Probably
with the bad.
I mean,
the good and the bad. I get it. You know what? I'm really not a fan of the strawberry kiwi flavor profile.
thank you.
It's just too artificial. It's too sweet. Do I like strawberries separately and kiwi separately? Absolutely. But give me something that's artificially flavored. I'm not about it.
I honestly thought you were gonna say maybe tomato or cucumber.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I don't really, I mean, the whole, is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable? To me, it's a vegetable. And when I think of juice, I think of fruit juices.
Oh,
You're answering
remember
so
this.
many so many questions we have coming up for you.
Yes, remember this. It will come up later.
Oh, jeez.
Now you mentioned that juice is the spinach to your Popeye. Is there certain types of juices that give you certain abilities for certain matches?
You know what? As much as I sit here and say I mean, I'm definitely gonna say like my red juice through and through always gets the job done. Never had a bad experience with anything mixed with pineapple or mango that gets the job done, but I don't know. Can't say I've encountered a bad juice that steered me wrong unless you're gonna throw me prune juice or something.
Ooh.
I I would liken what James is asking to the mist of Japanese wrestling and how different
Oh,
color mists did different things.
no, they all pump me up. I haven't encountered a juice that's got a bad effect yet. Not yet. We'll see.
All right. Scooter, you have a question.
Tell us about Wishes on Wheels, please.
Oh yeah, so Wishes on Wheels. That was a charity event that I got to do for the Make a Wish Foundation. It was in Connecticut. It was a great time. I actually had the pleasure of working Rosalie there as well.
Hmm.
But it was a great time. Everyone, all the kids were out there, fans, everyone right up on the barricades. It was an outdoor event in the summertime, so that summertime events can be a little exhausting, being in the heat and outside in the elements for so long. But it was a really, it was a very humbling experience, being able to do what I love, and put on a good time for these kids and their families who, have really been able to push through tough situations and make the best of it. So for me, I had a blast seeing all the kids and, you know, if I could at least bring a smile to their face for like 5 seconds, then I did my job at the end of the day that day.
All right. Now, your ring gear. It looks very punk rocky, with and you have the checkered pattern as well. What does
Mm-hmm.
your ring gear say about you?
So my ring gear is, I mean, you're definitely on the right track of the whole punk aesthetic with it. That's very much so, always been a part of who I am in and out of the ring. Punk music is like one of my favorite genres. So you hit the nail on the head right with that. Um, but pretty much what I told my gear designer was, hey, let's mix in really bright colors meets all the produce in the world and the fruits that you can think of mixed with Lisa Frank. So that's where you'll
Oh,
see where like the checkerboard comes into
wow.
play, and the bright colors with the animal prints and all that stuff, like the big patterns and bold colors. The inspiration is from Lisa Frank because I loved Lisa Frank as a child growing up, and it's made a resurgence these days, and I couldn't be happier about it.
That takes me back. Wow.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Very interesting. Awesome. Now, Scooter, you have a question.
I want to ask you about Pam and Jim. Or rather, how big of a fan of The Office are you? And
Oh, I love
British
The
or you
Office.
or British or American?
I tried to get into the British Office, and like, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's a completely different like sense of humor, or I mean not completely different, but like British humor and comedic moments definitely read differently than the American moments, I feel like. So I did really try to give it like the good old college try and like really try to get into it multiple different times. I unfortunately couldn't. So my loyalty does lie with the American Office, the US version. Probably watched that series at least 3 times from start to finish.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That is impressive. That has a lot of episodes.
Oh yeah. I'm one of those people that once I find a show and I like it, it'll be one of my go-tos for everything. Like, oh, you need background noise while you're doing your dishes? Throw on The Office. It became one of those shows for me.
Alright. Now onto a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
Absolutely not. And you know what? People can give me all the heat they want because I have a fruit-based gimmick. But and the thing is, I love pizza in all shapes and forms. I love pizza rolls, bagel pizzas, flatbread pizzas, thick crust, thin crust, stuffed crust. I love all pizza. Do not get me wrong. I have it at least once a week. But I cannot bring myself to put pineapple on my pizza.
Interesting. I was not expecting that because you said you were really high on pineapple juice. So I thought,
I know it's just something about like I think it's the mixture of like the tomato sauce like as your base on your pizza and then like eating the pineapple with it. I don't know. I've really given it a good try throughout my entire life up until probably about 2021. But I can't do it. I'd like to say I give it a really good try, but I just can't do it.
alright. What's your
Alright.
spirit Pokemon?
Oh god. My spirit Pokemon. See, that's like, man, that's such a loaded question. My brain goes through so many different ideas. I shouldn't say obviously because it's not an obvious Pokemon that every young girl goes to. But when I first got into Pokemon, I definitely gravitated right towards Jigglypuff. You know, she's pink, she's fluffy. Um, that was my go-to in the beginning. But I definitely grew to love, kind of the basics. The basic Pokemon. Like I always go to like the core ones. So like Pikachu's always a
Of
go-to,
course.
and their evolutions. Um, Charmander, classic, and Bulbasaur.
Scooter?
Jigglypuff, Jigglypuff, Jigglypuff.
There it is.
Yeah. You can't
That's
mention
awesome.
Jigglypuff without Scooter doing the,
Yes.
impression.
Now I know what to anticipate in the future if there's ever another time. Now I know what's coming.
There's Wigglytuff. No.
Oh.
Not the weirdest thing you'll ever be asked on a wrestling podcast. Would you ever consider wrestling a rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, Scooter,
Not the country.
an actual rock.
Would I wrestle a rock?
Yes.
Um, if the payday, I don't know. Wow, I was not ready for something like that. Okay, you know what? I really feel like, you know what? I'm gonna say this. You know what? I would. And the only reason being because I did say I was trained and do train at the Kevin Landry Pro Wrestling Combine. Kevin Landry obviously is one of my main trainers, but I got my basics from El Chi. And he would always say, if you should be able to wrestle a broom, you should be able to wrestle the Invisible Man, and take your own bumps and take your own Invisible Man arm drags and all these things. So you know what? To follow in that line of thinking, you know what? I'd wrestle Rock.
Just for context, there's this wrestler named Psycho Mike that wrestled an actual rock for over 15 minutes in what was dubbed a Tungsten Man match, an Iron Man match that lasted for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. I mean, then he took it to the next level.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, more power to you, man.
He didn't win the match, though.
Oh, well, I mean, of course.
Yeah, I mean,
Rock.
The Rock was the champion, so he had to retain.
Absolutely.
Now, we love Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? THUG.
God. Oh, God. I feel like I do, but right now my brain is drawing the biggest blank.
Scooter?
T is for terrible. H is for hell. U is
Yep.
for ugly.
Yep.
G is for jail, 'cause a thug can't spell.
Mm-hmm. There it is. That was awesome. That was awesome.
Now, it is once again time for that segment. Big Juiciest, Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a story that fits that description?
Oh, perfect example. So, was it last Saturday? Yeah, last Saturday I was working out in Rhode Island for RWA, that's Renegade Wrestling Alliance. And I was in their Rumble. And the Rumble was the main event, but co-main event there was a standard singles match, right? And we're at like an American Legion, standard kind of indie wrestling venue, right? And we're in Gorilla, we're backstage, and we're watching the co-main event right before us, before the Rumble, and all of a sudden the fire alarm starts going off.
Ooh.
We're like, are you kidding me? We're like, no, this isn't real. Like someone must have just tripped the system or something. No, we had to fully evacuate the premises, stand in the parking lot, so everyone from backstage is going out the back exit. Fans are going out every which way. And the crazy part was the show must go on. So the workers that were in the ring wrestling, and huge props to them. Keep in mind, in Rhode Island, it had snowed earlier that day. So it was easily in the teens. I wouldn't even say 20s. It was probably in the teens. And they're still working their match in the parking lot, bumping into the bushes.
Oh my God.
Using the bush to like do an O'Connor roll off of the, like how people would use the ropes. They were giving these people in the parking lot what they paid for and then some. And I will still say this to them years from now, like, good for you guys for being professional, getting the job done, and continuing to give the people what they wanted. Like, I couldn't have done that. I probably would have frozen and like, what do we do? But yeah, the alarm goes off. We finally get the clear to go back in the building. They go in, they finish the match in the ring, and then they get ready and they start announcing the Royal Rumble or the Rumble, and we're like, how do we top that? Like, how do we give these people that and then some when these people just worked in the cold ass New England weather?
And everybody knows that if you have a pinfall or have a submission on, if you grab a bush or a bumper of a car, it's a rope break.
Yep, that's exactly it. It's like a rope break.
Yep.
I mean, that's what they were doing. I was like, you guys are like, I take my hat off to you and bow and to your feet because that was awesome.
Who was
like
these
true
two?
Thank you.
professionalism.
Who was these two guys, may I ask?
Yeah.
It was It was Stephen Lust and Insane Dick Lane.
Okay. Did you?
Definitely, like, upstanding guys. I would definitely recommend checking them out and get them on your pod. I'm sure they've got some awesome stories.
I'm probably going to Google them right after this podcast.
Do it, please do it. They're amazing humans, and I can't speak highly enough of them.
All right. Now on to a more serious note. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Where do I see myself in 5 years? In wrestling, I would love to say that I have made it onto some type of televised spot, whether it be big league, doing like, extra work, like a dark match, something. I would love to be able to say that I did something for a bigger name at least once in my wrestling career. To see if it's something that I can push and strive for. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, like, do I see myself making it to WWE or any of those, like, big places? Not necessarily, but I'm not going to sit here and say, like, that's not something that I wouldn't work or strive towards if the opportunity or something were to present itself. But I'd like to, in the next 5 years, I'd like to see myself travel across the country. I've only really done New England so far, traveled up and down. The furthest I've gone is, the furthest north I've gone is Maine, and then I would say south is probably Connecticut, because I've gone to upstate New York, so that's not really south, I guess. But actually, in April, I'll be able to say I've gone a little bit further south. I'll be going to New Jersey for the first time.
Boo.
But I'd like to go
I'm in New
across the
York.
country and international. What?
I was
Who's in New
I would
York?
say yeah, because I'm from New York City, and we just don't like New Jersey for some reason.
I mean, I guess Jersey doesn't get a good rep, but I mean, the promotion I'm going to definitely does, so that works out for me at least.
What promotion is it? It's not Ace, is it?
No, I'll be going to Dropkick Depression.
Oh, with Kennedy Copeland.
He's worked for them. It's run by Tara Calloway.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's Jeff Cannonball's partner.
We promoted the last one, didn't we, James?
Yeah, we did.
Tara, I have only met her in person once, but again, over COVID, so many of us in the wrestling business and in the indies I definitely say New England, and I'm sure throughout the country as well. We definitely got to network a little bit more as people were, trying to stay socially relevant online with no running shows. Tara and I have gotten to connect, and we've met in person once, and she reached out to me and was like, hey, are you available for this date? We're going to do this awesome all-women's show, and all the proceeds are going to go to a women's shelter. She was like, unfortunately, everything's going to this, but I was like, oh my God, you're doing an amazing thing. You're giving me an opportunity. Like, I don't care about the pay. At the end of the day, it's a great organization, a great promotion that I've heard nothing but amazing things about. So I'm really excited to be able to say I've wrestled in a new state in the next couple months.
All right. Now, what's a match that people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what Big Juicy is all about?
I would definitely say that my match with Becca was definitely one of those matches that I really started to push myself in. So I definitely really value that match. And I definitely I'm so bummed it was only a taping, but I don't know if it's still online or not. But I'd love to be able to get more matches in with her. But I had a really great singles match with I could think of two that really started pushing me to really work smarter and push myself in the ring. Working with Davey Ann and Little Mean Kathleen.
Hey. Love Kathleen.
Oh,
Love
she's
Davey Ann too.
amazing. Oh, they're amazing. I literally have looked at Davey since I started training as like greener than green, and was like, I can't wait for the day I get to step in the ring with you, because I feel like it'll be such a learning experience, and it was. She was the first person to be like, hey, I think you need to try this move. And I was like, what do you, she was like, you can do it and it'll be a great power move for you. So she was the first one to get me to start doing Samoan drops. So shout out to Davey Baby for giving me the confidence boost to, expand my horizons.
I've heard a lot of renditions of Davey Ann, but Davey Baby has not been one of them.
I just that's just my little thing. I'm sorry, Davey, if you didn't like that, but Davey Baby, she's literally one of. I have a select few people I dub my, wrestling brothers or sisters, or some people I've even dubbed like my wrestling fairy godparents. And Davey, I'm always like, hey, mom. Like, she's just one of those people that, like, she'll do nothing but help you if you're seeking the guidance and stuff like that. And I'm really very grateful for people like that in the business, because not everyone is, always going to be that inviting and, willing to work with newer people, not all the time. And she's just one of the few people that has really been great to me, so I really appreciate her.
Alright. And the match with Becca, I believe, is on YouTube. So I will put that match in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox, for anybody that wants to go check it out after they listen to this.
Cool.
Now we are nearing the conclusion of this interview. So we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Oh dear.
This is our bonus round, our speed round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Bring it.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Oh, greatest wrestler of all time, man. Oh God. Oh. I mean, I'm a real sucker for. I can't. Okay, I have like 3 that are just forever tied in my brain. So this is who I'm going with. I'm going with Mick Foley, all gimmicks. I'm going with The Rock and Lita.
Alright. Worst wrestler.
Worst?
Yes.
Oh God. I mean, for the longest time, I was afraid of clowns, and he was my go-to answer. So I'm gonna say Doink.
Alright. Your main event in
No,
WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who
Wait.
is your opponent?
if I had to wrestle someone, oh God. I mean, in a perfect world, I would love to work someone of like
Be anyone past or present?
Lita or like China status. Like, how did I forget China? Jeez, love her. And like Luna Vachon, like just all the powerhouse women in wrestling. Like, you can't. It's so hard to like pinpoint just a few.
Alright. If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Oh man. I mean, I'd have to go with Stone Cold Steve Austin, because as soon as you hear that glass shatter, everyone's up in their seats, everyone's screaming, everyone's like, we know what's about to happen. Like, I feel like there was, in my opinion, and again, my opinion is one of hundreds of thousands of millions, billions in the world, but my opinion there, I feel like I've seen no bigger pop. And once you hear that glass smashing, and you know who's coming out and who's going to get the job done.
And I agree with you 100%. If you look at the crowd for any time the glass shatters, all the hands go up immediately.
Oh yeah, middle fingers, people screaming, the whole nine. The whole nine.
I believe Davian gave us that answer when we first had her on as well.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm not surprised. That's awesome.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Kayfabe is something that not everyone keeps alive anymore, and sometimes I wish they did.
We also would have accepted is quite good on toast.
Kayfabe is good on toast?
Yes. Squash. Fruit or vegetable?
Squash?
Yep, squash.
Vegetable.
It is actually a fruit.
Oh, is it because of the whole thing that if it has seeds or whatever?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Of course. I mean, these are things that, like, by definition, I should be saying fruit, but flavor profile wise, I'm gonna categorize it as a vegetable.
Fair enough. You're now in good graces with Kaliko Yachts. You're part of Squash Squad, and that means a hell of a lot more. New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
Oh dear. I mean, I mean, that's a whole whatever your comfortability level is. Personally, I mean, there's nothing wrong with like a tasteful amount of bottom butt cheek, but there shouldn't be like everything out there. If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
Just make sure everything's covered and we're good. Let's put it that way.
And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
I definitely have not.
And that is the correct answer.
Okay, great. Glad I passed one.
And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us, Juicy.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. And
Absolutely.
what we can we find you on social media once again?
One more time. I am on the Facebook, the Instagram, and the Twitter. If you're looking up the handles specifically for Twitter and Instagram, the handle is the @. It's Big Juicy, no capitalization needed, and Juicy has 3 Y's because it's Big Juicy with 1 Y was taken.
Right, and of course, all of those links will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox, simply click the link. Um, if you've been listening to her for a little over an hour, DM her and buy a damn shirt.
Yeah, come get it. I'll send you pictures of all my inventory.
And of course, if you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, both on YouTube and Castbox. Of course, this was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us next week for another incredible interview. You can follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on Twitter and Instagram for all the latest news on interviews and all that information. You can follow us individually as well. I am at JamesJ993. You can follow Kaliko at I am Kaliko. And where can we find Scooter?
You can find me slowly peeking out from under your bed. If you want to find me on social media, Twitter, as always, it's at Scooter Dust. And of course, the remix coming to YouTube now for the first time, starting with WrestleMania, the live alternate commentary sidecast that's been going on for the past 6 years. James and I will bring it to you both nights of WrestleMania. And of course, all my Twitch outings with wrestlers like Johnny Gargano Congrats, Johnny. Medusa, Colt Cabana, Adam Cole, just to name a few. But mainly, you can also catch me along with Rico Constantino Jr. over on the Smoking Dragons Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Smoking Dragons.
Now, Big Juicy, when I say wrestling wit, you say entertainment.
Okay.
For our very special guest, Big Juicy, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling Wit.
Entertainment!
Hey guys, this is Brutal Bob Evans from Hangs with Bob Seminars and TheWrestleLife.com, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.